Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to WeatherBrains episode 988. 988. It's the pre show, the magical, marvelous time where we do three things. We share boring personal stories, humorous anecdotes, and from time to time, we say very outrageous things. All right, so it's actually not evening. We're recording this episode on a Friday morning. It's a Friday morning special. The show is to be released on Monday, December 23rd. We are recording live here on Friday, December 20th, and we typically do this every year. Most years, the way it works, I get off work Christmas week. I get 3 weeks a year. One is toward the end of June, one at the end of July or the first week in August, and then Christmas week, weather permitting. Many years I have lost this week because of weather, but this year looks like it's going to be a calm, which is good. And whenever I am away, we will record that episode the week before. So again, this is for Monday, December 23rd, Christmas Eve. So looking forward to this. Whenever we do a morning special, we have different folks that are kind of watching on the live stream here. It's a different vibe, but it's been a good year. Of course, we'll come back and do our year ender on Monday, December 30th. We'll be live that night. That's when Greg Carbon will be joining us for the annual look at meteorological memories of the year. Count down the top 10. That'll be good together. That'll be on the 30th. But yeah, this is kind of a time where everything slows down a bit. And I run hard and fast every day. Yesterday was the last school program of the year. Wow. And so today there's no school program. I don't know what to do with myself. So we're doing Weather Brains. The schools around here, the way it works today, they're in class for just a half day. They go home late this morning. They do absolutely nothing but have fun and Christmas parties, and that's a wrap. So next time I'll be in a school will be in early 2025. And again, just looking forward to getting down just a little bit, little downtime. Everybody needs kind of a mental health break from this. This job is amazing. I will never, ever, ever complain about hours, lack of sleep, trolls, never. Getting to do this, it's a joy. I mean, I understand if you do what you love to do, and you've heard this before, it's not my original saying, but you'll never work a day in your life. And I just feel that way. I'm very blessed to be able to do this. So, but having said that, everybody needs a little downtime. So next week things will be much slower. No television for me next week. And I'll, post a little bit here and there, but just good to spend some time with family and just sit back and kind of enjoy Christmas and all that kind of stuff. It's been a good year. And I will say this, and we talked about this on the last episode, where I am. This has been one of the quietest years in about 40 years. You have to go back to the 1980s to find a year this quiet. We had no hurricanes on the Alabama Gulf Coast this year. The number of tornado warnings issued by the National Weather Service in Birmingham, Alabama, 6 all year. They had one last week, and there was no tornado there. But it is eerily quiet. We've had a little drought, but it's not that severe. We've not had any big heat waves or floods. It's just been calm. We all know it's going to break loose at some point. So we're waiting for that moment to happen, but we're very thankful that for where I am, it's been quiet. I know for a lot of you, it's been a rough year. But again, we'll take a look back on the meteorological memories on our December 30th show. And we're coming up on show 1000 again. This is 988. We started Weather Brains in January of 2006. So next month we turn 19. And show 1000 is going to be coming up in March of 2025. And we still are working on picking a location. We're going to try and get everybody in person together at one spot, if possible. It might not be possible, and we're going to try and bring back a lot of the old regulars, that have been on the show over the years. We've had some amazing regulars that have been part of our regular guest schedule here for a long time, and bring back some of the guests we've had and have some memories of the show. And this thing started back in '06 as a 30-minute audio show, and I mean it was tightly produced. In fact, here let me play this segment here. I think you've heard this on here before. If I can find it, yeah, here we go. This is the original show, the 31st of January, 2006. I personally think we have way too many warnings. Severe thunderstorm warnings are a dime a dozen, and it's getting to be that way with tornado warning.
Welcome to WeatherBrains, the podcast about weather by weather fans. I'm David Black with the Weather Company from Birmingham, Alabama, welcoming you to our first program. With me.
So that was David Black, and David was the original host of the show. And he was a very good guy in terms of production. He would make it, he would produce it. It would be right at 30 minutes. And he was really, really good. Where I'm just a loose cannon here. You know, this thing is more from this tightly produced 30-minute show into whatever. But hopefully David will join us. David lives down in the eastern shore of Mobile Bay. And David was with me when I worked for the NBC channel here years and years ago, back in the 1980s. But he's a great storyteller, but he was the original host of WeatherBrains. And what's interesting to me, on that first show, I was griping about the same things I'm griping about today. Too many tornado warnings, false alarms, and all that. Jen, thanks for taking the time to join us. Happy Friday morning.
Happy Friday. Good to see you guys.
It's always a different vibe here when we do these morning episodes.
It is.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I see Bill here, and here comes James A. I think Neil is out, and Troy said he had some dental work or something.
Yeah,
he said he's out.
That's what he's saying.
Rick said he's going to be a little late, but that's all right. We won't keep y'all long here. We don't want to miss a week. We've never missed a week in all these years, never. And we will never miss a week. We'll get these episodes done. All right. So let me be sure you guys can hear this. Y'all heard that, right?
Garbled.
that's faint. Yeah, it's faint.
Yeah. Well, that's a Zoom thing. You can hear this.
Yes.
Oh, the chemtrails come through loud and clear.
Okay.
James A's got Clarice on there.
I got a big dog too, but it's Zoom's doing a pretty good job of eliminating her.
Oh,
We'd like to sometimes.
Ooh, that's mean.
Yep, popped in there for a second.
And again, welcome to our television viewers. Again, for those that are just joining us on the TV side, this is a recorded episode, which happens 3 times a year. We are live on Monday night, December 23rd. The show is being recorded on Friday morning, December the 20th. And we'll get this thing started here in a second. And again, we'll be back on the regular live schedule on December 30th. I did invite him, Bill, so I sent it to the email address that you used here.
Yeah, I see that, but he hasn't responded.
Well, maybe he's getting big bad breakfast or something. I don't know. It is so weird. There's no school visit. I mean, I totally feel like there's something wrong here, because I'm in a school every single day, and I would be in a school right now, and I don't know what to do. So I feel like I should be in a gymnasium with screaming third graders.
We can act like that if you want us to.
Yeah, but say sometimes we all act like third graders. I'm telling you guys, third grade is the absolute greatest. I would teach third grade science all day long. They understand sarcasm, so they think you're funny. They have the cognitive skill to learn middle school level science. They're sweet. They don't smell bad. There are no hormone problems. Third grade that's where you want to teach. Third grade.
I think I had hormone problems in third grade, so I don't remember
Show title. That's a great show. I had hormone problems in third grade.
That's really
That's a
good.
great show title. I mean, wow. We can't use it because we're not recording yet. So,
Oh man, I thought we were recording. No, we're not required. We're not
No.
bound by television this morning.
yeah.
There
let's
he
get the
is, the star of the
Yay,
show.
Mark Sudduth.
all right,
Howdy.
now that Mark's here, we can
Howdy.
start the party. All right, recorder 1, recorder 2. And here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to WeatherBrains. They're kind of a big deal.
Oh, yes. Weather Brains, episode number 988. The weekly show that's all about weather, the most marvelous time of the year. This is for Monday, the 23rd of December, Christmas Eve. And a little secret, we will let you in on this. We're actually recording the show on Friday, December the 20th. It's our Christmas week special that we typically record 1 week in advance, but we're glad you're here. It's a Friday morning special, and it's good to see a bunch of the regulars on here with us, despite the fact that we're so close to Christmas. Let's go up to Jen in the Arctic Circle, who has sent us a new batch of cold air. Jen, thank you.
You're so welcome. I wish it was going to stick around because a lot of people are wondering, is it going to be a white Christmas? I don't think for many it's going to be. But yeah, a little blast of colder air. We're getting a little bit of snow across west central Ohio on this Friday. And then I think rain for us on Christmas Day. But yeah, I love this time of year, and I'll do a little bit of work, but then I'll go hang out with my family. And it's great to see you guys and hang out with all of you.
Yep, we are family. We've been
are.
around here for a long time. So James A., where are you in the North Pole? What's the story there?
It feels like it. We're probably upper 20s, low 30s this morning with a pretty feisty wind chill. So I vote against it. Send it back to Jen.
I second the motion.
Yeah, it's a little nip in the air here. Let's see, Kim's on the line on a Friday morning. They got the commissioner. The commissioner is on here. Commish, thank you for joining us. How you doing?
Great, but just like Oklahoma, James, I am pretty chilly. So I'm sitting here coming to you all from next to my Christmas tree, hugging a nice hot cup of coffee.
Yay.
About to say, this is a set change here. This is not chroma key. You've actually changed rooms on us.
Yeah, it's a different chair. So yeah, well, welcome to a different room of the house. It's very exciting over here.
Yeah, as you can see, I'm in my Christmas palace here, which which is as we all know is not actually a Christmas palace. Let's see, I can what can I do here? I can be at the I can be at the TV station. I can be with some snow flying here. That shot actually was taken out this window when it was snowing here, and Bill Murray went. I don't remember exactly which snow event.
2017, 2018.
I don't know, but it was just a gentle, perfect little snow falling out the window here, and that was just outstanding.
When we prompted all the planting of all the pine trees on the big hill at Briarwood Presbyterian Church after we spent the afternoon sledding over there. I'm trying to see where this was here. That's a nice. It looks
one.
like Mobile Bay or something else like Fairhope.
It does. It does look like Mobile Bay, but I guess
that is Lake Thunderbird. Come on.
Lake Thunderbird.
That's whatever lake you want it to be.
All right. Well, Bill, let's bring in Mark. He's part of our family. Bring him in, Bill. The floor belongs to you.
Yeah, James. Show number 988 reminds me we're perilously close to show 1000.
Woo!
And that is scaring me badly right now. But Mark Sudduth is our little Christmas present to you, Mark. Mark's probably been on the show more than anybody else now. I was kind of looking, Mark, and you're getting to be a fixture. You may just
double his pay. Double his pay.
You may.
I'm the Steve Martin of WeatherBrains.
Yeah, we may just
Saturday Night Live reference.
So yeah, you're morphing into a panelist here, so we wouldn't mind
Awesome.
that, Mark. That
Hey,
would be
yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
But I feel like I'm home when I see you there on your set because I watch your videos all year long, of course,
Right. Well, thank
as
you.
one of your Patreon supporters, and love what you do. Hang on your every word during hurricane season, and look forward to your videos popping out every morning. So anyone who's not doing that already needs to jump out there and do it. But we thought we would kind of go over the season, not just the hurricane season, Mark, but the whole
Yeah.
year, and talk about what a year it was for you as a researcher.
Busy, the busiest year in my career. Started off January. Boy, I'm gonna have to try to remember all of this now. By the way, I just got back literally last night. No feeling sorry for me from the Caribbean. Went on a cruise with my wife. Went to Grand Cayman and Jamaica. And we literally flew back last night just in time to get to my son's middle school basketball game where they were down 11 points when we walked in and they ended up winning by 11. I was like, yes. So
You're living the life, Mark.
living the life, like it's just good. But
84 this morning in Grand Cayman, so that doesn't
right,
look too terrible.
right, exactly. It was warm and muggy down there. Um, but to get to that, and that's a good way to segue into this. I think my wife needed the cruise more than me because she doesn't get a vacation from the ordinary, at her job as a nurse in the emergency department. And when I go to work, I enjoy it so much that I feel like I'm on vacation. The old expression, I get paid to do this. But the difference is a lot of the times when I'm going to work and I enjoy it a lot, the end result can be very painful for people. But sometimes it's not. And that's where we were this year. So starting in January, had a big blizzard out in Kansas, the Southern Plains, I guess we'd call that. And gosh, even before that, though, you're really challenging me here. I was up in, I guess, very early January, as in Buffalo. Now I remember because I told this story to a guy on the cruise. There's that big lake effect snow right before the Bills Steelers game that delayed them by a day. Normally that would have been on a Sunday, and I was up there covering it for my own benefit for Fox Weather. And I went out to Highmark because they said, "Hey, anybody that wants to come out." They lifted the travel ban, of course, for people to come out and help shovel snow. If you want to go get some milk somewhere, you get a fine, but if you want to come shovel snow, come on out. So anyway, I drove out there and I had a snow shovel with me, and I went up into the stadium, and there was like 300 people, if that, and Highmark was just filled with snow. I mean, feet deep, and it was coming down at like 3 inches an hour. And I really did feel like that movie 300, that it was us against, and I got to get that reference if I'm going to use that story. Who were they against in that movie 300? Anybody know off the top of your head? But you know what I mean, where it was them versus some army, right? And I'm like, it's not happening. Like, you're going to need 10,000 people out here. And I set up my GoPro and I took a shot with the iPhone, a panning shot, and it went viral. And, I'm contracted with Fox, and yet ESPN is wanting me to come on. I'm like, I can't. I got this wonderful thing with Fox. Sorry. And Fox Sports can use it, though, right? But that's how I started the year. It was like, and then somebody, one of our supporters, he sent me a Buffalo Bills toboggan. And normally I have it sitting right there, but I used it recently when I went up for some Christmas activities with the family near, well, it's Christmas and Thanksgiving. Anyway, rambling on, but yes, that's how we started the year. Buffalo and then Kansas for a big winter storm out there. Um, the kind of cold where your bones right here hurt. You can only cover up so much. And I don't have a ski goggles or anything, but the cheekbones just, you get an ice cream headache because it's just blowing on you so hard and it's so cold. Your face hurts, your forehead right there hurts. I remember that. But that was remarkable. And I was remembering being out there and standing at an intersection. It was just frozen The storm had come and gone. It was blue sky, and there were several inches of snow, and it was like 13 degrees outside. And thinking, I'm going to be right back here in a few months tracking supercells. And because we had the this hail project that I was hatching up, I guess my midlife crisis, hurricanes weren't enough, and so I decided, well, let me spend some money and not buy a sports car, but buy a full truck size hail guard and
You
go
got to show a
chase.
picture of that, Mark. If you can screen share, James, you'll have to allow the screen sharing because this hail guard thing is impressive, man. I think you need one of these on your Forerunner.
That'd
Let's see
look
if I can
good. It would
pull
look
this
good.
off.
It would look really good.
You might get another
I can't wait.
100,000 miles out of it if you
There
if
you
you had
go.
one of
This
these
could
jobbies on it.
prolong the life.
There it is.
Oh
There
yeah.
you go.
Wow. That's outstanding.
Yeah, very
That's
expensive.
outstanding.
This is about 15 grand, and company here in Wilmington put this together for me. It's made out of aluminum and perforated metal. There's little holes in there, and got a camera up there, and yep, that's the old. And by the way, so there's another shot of it. Some mammatus up there. This is in Nebraska, and just beautiful stuff.
So
Uh,
air flows through it. Otherwise, you might take off at a terminal velocity. There, it looks like more.
well, the air. Now look, the air doesn't. Nobody's ever done it like that before that I think that I've ever seen. Usually they do it with expanded metal, where it's got the um, more of a diamond shape to the, and as more air flows through. But we needed it to be strong, and um, I'm actually working on that because my gas mileage really dropped because of that thing. It's actually light because it's made out of aluminum.
Probably wasn't great to start with.
Right, right. I mean, the mileage on a Tacoma is not bad, but it's worse now. Um, but yeah, standing out there in Kansas thinking, man, I'm gonna be right back out here April, May, June, and all the snow and ice will be gone, and I'll be tracking supercells looking for frozen hydrometeorites or whatever, right? And so people, what do you do? Well, I study the kinetic energy and economic impacts of frozen hydrometeorites. Like, all right. So you chase hail? Oh yeah,
Yeah, there you
absolutely.
go. Sounds like my high school science project.
Right. Then we had a nor'easter in March in Massachusetts, and did some work up there. Love going up to Situate and Marshfield. And then April, we had the eclipse, and that was just remarkable. And the National Tropical Weather Conference would love to get you to come down to that at some point, Bill. Anybody on the
Yeah,
panel?
we Brian Peters and I came several years ago and loved it,
It
and
is
I do need
fantastic.
to do it again.
So I was there, and my family, some of them went with me, and we were coming up on the eclipse afterwards. And we all remember this, that the clouds just, we had the subtropical jet, the leftovers of that El Nino, and it just screwed everything up from Texas, Mexico border northeast from there. And there was this one little corner in Maine that looked like it was going to be perfect. And I wasn't going to miss it. And so I spent the money and put family members on a plane. We were going to meet in Texas, and we changed it, and we flew to Boston, rented a car, a van. Luckily, actually had two of them because we had so many in the family. And we drove up to Holton, Maine, and that was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. Second one in several years. I saw the one in 2017, but that was April 8th. And from there, Rock Hill, South Carolina, and vicinity had a massive hailstorm around the 20th of April, and my truck was just about done at the fabricator. And I thought, well, that's got to be a good omen, that there's $1 billion of hail damage 3 hours to my west. I must have chosen this idea for a good reason here. And I went and visited IBHS and the unbelievable Dr. Ian Giamanco and his colleagues, and said, my goal is to show people hail like they've never seen it before, and learn from it and see what I can do, And late April, set out and spent probably 7,000 miles out there. And storm chasers would probably do that meme from The Wolf of Wall Street when he says those are rookie numbers. 6 or 7,000 on the plains. That's nothing. Those are rookie numbers. But yeah, I drove out to Dallas and got stuff ready. And the severe weather season, as you all know, changes as it goes on. And we had a pretty big tornado season this year. And that was challenging because we had to avoid the tornadoes. And, most storm chasers, that's the goal. My goal was the big hail. And it was hard. It was hard to find big hail. We always found hail, but the really big stuff proved to be harder than I thought. And worked our way through April and May, finally get into June, all the way to late June. And in Nebraska and Wyoming is where I found what I was looking for. Just tremendous lower precipitation supercells, especially one in Nebraska. Absolutely incredible. Got up to the largest one that I observed was about 4 inches, and had all these cameras sitting up on the Tacoma and captured it in spectacular fashion using some 360 technology. And a few weeks later, I got Dr. Giamenko on a Zoom and I showed him. And I believe that it's the first time anybody had ever proven through photographic evidence that hailstones actually do tumble as they come down. Like we could see it in the 360 cam because you could look up, like I could show you. Actually, let's share the screen again. Let me show you. This is pretty insane stuff here, and I wasn't setting out to do this necessarily. It was just an accident. I wanted to just see hail differently,
That was
and
Mark on the slopes right there.
right. In many decades ago, sure. So this is the 360 view. And what's nice is that it records it in 5.7K. We don't need audio for this. So here we go. There's the 360 view. There's the supercell parent storm, obviously low precipitation. Your hail core is sitting in there. So let's just fast forward this to the 4 minute, 30-second mark or so. I think actually it's a minute and some change. We get the first big one. So the hailstones start coming down. And let me see, I got some notes here. I don't want to
Are
waste too
you
much time.
controlling the orientation of that image now, Mark, or
Yes.
was it in
Yes.
real time back then? So
Yeah.
you really have a true 360-degree image.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But is it? Would you mind sharing the name of that camera or that company? Because
Oh, yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's the GoPro Max
Oh, okay.
360 cam. And we actually took this to, it's a minute 55. This is the first good one. I just missed it. Took this to Fox back in November, and we're going to start using this on Fox Weather to, again, just augment the toolbox because you can show stuff like let them drive it. And in fact, Ian Oliver did just that. I went out to the Outer Banks, jumping ahead to November. There was a little small coastal storm, and I had some footage from the Rodanthe Pier, and some houses had broken up out there, whatever. And Ian was able to do exactly what I'm doing on the air with that video. So it was no longer, well, here's 20 seconds of video from storm tracker Mark Sudduth. It was like he can drive it and the producer can drive it, just like I'm showing you here. So here comes the stone. Boom, there it is. So we can go back frame by frame, and now I can show you. This is the beauty of it. You can zoom in on that sucker, and we can look up, and now watch as it's coming. You can actually see it tumbling. And then it hits. So we go back. You can see it tumbling through the sky, frame by frame there. And Ian said, Dr. Giamenko, the other Ian, that we could make some 3D models out of that. Then you can see it impact, and you can track its trajectory. And this really was unexpected. You know what I mean? And that's the best science, is when you discover something that you weren't necessarily expecting, but you can clearly see the hailstone tumbling there. Boom. And then it makes impact. Really exciting stuff using a $500 camera to accomplish something that nobody had ever seen like that before. We assumed that they tumbled. I mean, it makes sense, but to see it and those spikes coming down, and now we have a better camera. This from Insta360 will do 8K and 100 frames a second, so we can increase the resolution, and we can give data in the form of imagery to IBHS and learn more about hail. So that's what I did up until the hurricane season, which is a good little break to let me stop talking for a second and see what you think.
Now, you kind of broad brushed over the eclipse there for a second.
Oh, yeah,
You talked
sorry,
about the
yes.
clouds in Texas, but
I'm glad
you
you're
kind of
keeping me
moved
in
heaven
line.
and earth to get your
Yes,
family in position. So talk about that for a minute. I
and it
ran
worked.
into a deer in northeast Arkansas the night before. I was in perfect position, but that was the only thing that marred that trip. But that eclipse was just a spectacular
Sure.
experience.
So did you have full sun where you were, or was it cloudy?
100% blue sky. It was
Wow.
perfect.
Nice. Yes, it was incredible. We had perfectly clear skies. It was chilly. There was still lots of snow on the ground from the winter. We were in a Walmart parking lot with hundreds of other people, and those seconds tick away, and then the sun finally gets eclipsed by the moon there. And like I did in 2017, I don't know why it happens, but it just draws the emotion out of me, and I was just crying like a baby, as they say, and um, it was just incredible. And it's fleeting, though, as you know, Bill. You want it to last
Happens way
longer.
too fast. Way too
Yes,
fast.
and it worked, and it was just unbelievable. And we all hauled butt south when it was over, and made it all back home, and have those memories there. And
Yeah,
I
I drug my kids in 2018 to Greenville, South Carolina,
right,
and they kind of were chafing and fussing the whole
right,
way, and made
right.
them
Of
go out,
course,
at 9 o'clock in the morning, 3 hours before it got there, and they were
yes,
like, "Why are we doing this?" But boy, when it
right,
hit,
yeah.
they were transformed, and
And my
they
good,
they they literally, thought that it was the most incredible thing they'd ever seen.
sure. Well, Jesse Bass, our longtime friend and colleague, he got pictures of it with his DSLR that are right up there with anybody else that you've ever seen. He was in Arkansas or Missouri or somewhere, and gosh, they are just incredible. His diamond ring effect, the totality, he did a really good job, and he has sold quite a few to collectors and whatnot. I was very proud of him. A really neat moment, and it was, one of those things that it's something that spectacular. I was just not going to miss it, and I wanted my kids to see it, and um, they did. Most of them. There's a couple of them that couldn't make it for various reasons, but they saw the one in 2017. So, and the ones that were there in this April weren't there in 2017 because they were in college. So, Dad has closed the circle, so to speak. Everybody's got to see an eclipse. I can go and whatever. I'm good.
Yeah, I've
I'm fulfilled.
had two. I feel very blessed. Any of the other panelists have any other eclipse stories from this year? Kim, y'all traveled up to what was the area in southeastern Oklahoma? Did y'all get to see it?
Yeah, so we went down to McCurtain County, which it was supposed to be a big hotspot because Broken Bow, that area it's become a real tourist attraction, especially during the pandemic. Everyone from Dallas could go to a cabin in the woods. It was great. So
Hmm.
we rented a cabin with a bunch of family. We were excited to go down and see it. And then there were clouds, right? We were right at the edge of that cloud deck. And there was like the warm front that was coming up from the south. And we had a very clear, day before and early morning. And then we were just like, oh, what are we going to do? We started to see the clouds come in. And so it was a storm anti-chase. We were looking at satellite imagery and trying to figure out, is it worth potentially battling, the crowds and whatever crazy drivers were out there to reposition ourselves. And so we made the decision with about, I think the eclipse had just started. So we made the decision with the amount of clouds that there were and the potential for there to be a plume like right over us at in totality hit, that we were going to go into Arkansas. So we packed up the kids and, caravanned out into Arkansas and found a community park and parked ourselves there. And there were a couple clouds that passed by, but I was actually kind of grateful to have a little bit of the low level clouds there when totality happened because we saw the most incredible thing. The clouds vaporized. Like they went back into just vapor. And part of what went on there is seeing the effect of daytime heating, processes, and there was no longer the heating from the surface to sustain those clouds. And so we watched them melt in front of us, and it was just
Wow.
incredible. So it ended up being very clear for totality, in part because the shadow of the eclipse got rid of the clouds for us. I
Wow.
didn't imagine anything like that was possible, but you saw it then on broader satellites from Nestus. You could see in the GOES satellite that shadow ahead. There were some areas that were kind of cloudy, and there were breaks that formed. And this is also why the Dallas metro, there were people who were able to get that break and see at least some of totality, and it's in part because the clouds went away. What a beautiful thing!
Wow.
I didn't even think about that in 2017. That may have saved us in Greenville, South Carolina, because we were, getting a lot of convection that morning, and suddenly it began to evaporate. And that probably was the shadow that was making that happen. Mark, where were you for that 2017 event? You were.
Um, I think you call it Utahville, UW or what Utahville, something like that in South
Yeah, it's probably like our
Carolina.
Utah, right? James Fan. It's probably
Yeah. Utah,
EUTAW.
Alabama.
Yeah.
It's on Lake Marion, I think it was. Brad Panovich was like, "Go to the lake, because the clouds won't be as bad or whatever." And I was like, "All right." And same thing happened. I had a drone up for that one, um, and now they're using it in New Jersey. But story for another day. Um, hey, too soon? Um, yeah, I sold it to that program. So put the drone up for that one and saw the phenomenon in time lapse of the clouds. There was a little bit of convection, and you could just see them die off in
Wow.
time lapse. It just collapsed as the shadow came over, and any cumulus clouds just whoop, went away. Yeah, that was really neat. But Holton, Maine, who would have thought? And we were just a few miles from the Canadian border to the east, and that was amazing. And that was a good run up to what would be, still finished out my hail season, and then that really literally overlapped with hurricane season because we had, as soon as I got back, we had Hurricane Beryl, and
And what a crazy storm it was,
yeah,
intensifying so rapidly,
sure,
Mark, in the Caribbean, and just getting a lot of people's attention, sort of giving a lot of credence to all those preseason forecasts that were scaring
right,
folks.
right, and got on a plane and went to Houston for the landfall. Worked with my colleague from Colorado on that one, testing out some new technology, and went down to, I think it was Bay City, Texas, for the landfall. And the eye went over us, early morning hours. And we learned really quickly that all of them this year were just going to be at night. Like, too bad. But yeah, that's just awful. Ugh. But and then hung out for a couple of days to see and be in the midst of all the shenanigans related to the power outages in and around Houston. And it got really hot really fast. And the absolute dichotomy of different people, that there were the haves and the have-nots. And those that had power thought that those that didn't were just crazy and making stuff up, showing once again how toxic.
Till they went to try to buy gas.
Right. But it was these little enclaves that were just fine. I mean, here's a great example of it. Up in Katy, we went up, Matt and and we had, I think, Texas Roadhouse the night after, no problem. They had power. Everywhere around there had power, but there was other pockets out near the airport, down near NASA, Webster, that didn't. And so, it wasn't complete 4 million people without power, but over a million were. And last time I checked, a million is still a pretty big number. And but the fighting or whatever on social media, Twitter, formerly known as X, in my brain, that's where it was happening. You guys know this, and there was just this, like, you know constant battle between people that we don't have power, where's center point, whatever, to those that, well, we got power, they've been on our street, and you guys, it was frustrating because, there was a lot of people that were hurting, and it took a week to get power fully restored. And we all saw how that played out. And Centerpoint apologized and owned up to some of their errors. But it shows you just a category one. People, oh, it's being hyped up, and oh, okay, well, just a category one. And then we had Ernesto. I went to Bermuda for Ernesto. Used Starlink. I got the Starlink Mini. It's just a little bit larger, the plate of it, than an iPad Pro, and it just has one cord. You got to plug it in somewhere, and it just works. And so we literally, the guy that went with me for that one, would walk around Bermuda and have Starlink with us with a little battery, and I would do my hits on Fox Weather, no problem, from Bermuda. Like, it was insane. In a golf course, and we were collecting golf balls that had fallen out of the trees from all the wind. Um, and didn't have to be near a Wi-Fi, and didn't matter that we were in some of the bands of the hurricane. We were even driving around. We mounted it on this guy's car that was helping us out there, and drove around Bermuda streaming live through Starlink. And it just fits right in my roller bag, no problem. It's literally just a little bit bigger than this nice Santa Claus that my daughter drew for me on a 8.5 by 11. Unbelievable. And that would change things. It really, from there, we used it during Francine, because there's parts of southern Louisiana that just the terrestrial network is, Sycamore Point comes to mind. You come over a hill, or what, not a hill, but like a little bridge or whatever, and there's no signal. And just, everywhere we went, we were live. We had the most uptime. And by the way, I wonder with all the chasers that use live view, as Starlink gets better and better, because it's cheap. It's $50 a month for 50 gigabytes, and it's just $1 a gigabyte thereafter. I mean, that's competing with my Verizon easily. Easily. Now, the upfront cost is a little bit more, but it's only $450 or so for the actual Starlink. But it worked great. Francine, of course, is where somebody stole our weather station. Still has it today, whoever that was. Merry Christmas.
So you never solved the crime?
Never
Mark?
solved it. We
Oh
came
my
close.
goodness.
Several chasers went by the weather station minutes before the perpetrator. Um, so, Merry Christmas from the Hurricane Track community to you, who now has a really nice weather station. I hope you get some good data with it in the future. And if you do, please share it. We would love to see it. And just give credit where credit is due. All right? Gosh. I have resolved it now that, oh well, but back in August there, or September, whenever Francine was,
Pretty
we
upsetting.
were pretty upset. Yeah, it was choice words off screen. But we've mitigated that. I mean, people, if they're going to vandalize, or all you got to do is smash the propeller or cut the cord, and we don't get the data. That's what hurt the most, is we weren't able to get the data. All that equipment is crowdfunded, and they stole from the community, but they also stole from the meteorological aspect of it. It was perfectly sighted over the Amelia in Louisiana there. What are you going to do? And then from there we had the big lull, that everybody thought, whoops, what hurricane season? And we went a while. And I talked with Dr. Klotzbach the other day, did a special, one of our Hurricane U sessions, that I think he said that it was the lowest ACE period since like 1974 or 94, maybe it was 94, during that August 20th to September 23rd stretch. So about a month, it really was dead. Like, it wasn't just our imaginations. And then it was the busiest and the most hurricane formations from September 23rd until the end of the season. That's remarkable. And we got a very hard lesson in just how bad things can get
Very
quickly
quickly.
with Helene. And went down and set up a whole bunch of stuff along the west coast of Florida, from Tampa St. Petersburg area up to St. Mark's, and really wish now, obviously, that there was two of me or whatever, or we had even more funding to have a team B, because this does cost a lot of money to do. As grateful as we are to our Patreon and my relationship with Fox, there's only so much I can do. Plus, a crew, you have to have people you can count on, and you have to train them, and this is very complicated. But I really wish, and you know where I'm going with this, that we had people in Western North Carolina to have set stuff up, because I know those areas. And I remember, it pains me to this day. I remember doing a hit on Fox mentioning these towns, these little towns, not just your Asheville. I mean, that's an easy one, but Bat Cave, Spruce Pine, Burnsville, you know, those areas that are along smaller rivers that are not the Swananoa, et cetera. You know, you talk about the Tow River that goes through Spruce Pine, and that's where my parents lived. Bakersville, Cane Creek that comes down out of Roan, and Bat Cave, and gosh, just like if I could go back in time, yes, I would have put assets there, and we might have even had a little bit of warning enough. I don't know. You do, and we all see that. You know, you think about April 27th, 2011. What could we do differently to have saved lives? And you wish you could just move everybody out of Tuscaloosa for that day or wherever. You can't. Sometimes we're going to take a loss, an L in the weather community. And Helene was one of those moments in Western North Carolina and elsewhere. We don't want to forget it also devastated Georgia with wind damage. Um, I think we had the highest number of deaths from wind that we have seen in many decades. Usually it's a very teeny part of any kind of a pie chart from the National Hurricane Center. Flooding and rain is like a big chunk. You know, people dying in their cars. Storm surge is usually small now. And now there's going to be a little bit of an uptick because of trees in Georgia, you know, that had fallen on houses. And then, of course, the epic flooding that has completely changed Western North Carolina, especially.
Yeah,
Thoughts from you guys? Yeah, it's somber. It's very
just a heartbreaking situation, and realizing it that night that the hurricane was making landfall, you know,
yes.
beginning to sink into me what was going to happen in interior
Yep.
Georgia, upstate South Carolina, western, you know, North Carolina. It was just terrifying. And you know, kind of shifting that focus from, you know, what we were seeing. I was in Tallahassee, and you know, beginning to let people know all the way up the chain that were in my realm of influence, you know, that they were going to have a terrible night. You know, in my advice, I went back and saw one of my text messages. They said, "Well, what should we do?" I said, in Macon, I said, "Prepare for a tornado."
Right.
You know, that was my direct advice: prepare for a tornado. And so it was a very helpless feeling. And you know, looking
Definitely.
at the messaging out of the National Weather Service in Greenville, Spartanburg, it was spot on.
Spot on. Very Katrina-esque, you know, but what do you do? There's just a lot of people. And I mean, I look at it too. It's interesting. It hit home for me because several of my, couple of my sons, so my oldest son was getting married in October, and he had his bachelor party. It was supposed to be in Western North Carolina that weekend. And they were asking me as I left for Florida, should we do it? And I was like, nope. It's like it's that simple. No, you shouldn't. You know, you got to call the Airbnb, and you're gonna have to like go to Chapel Hill or somewhere east of I-77. Do it there. And I think several of them went. My son, who's a paramedic, didn't go. Smart kid. And my oldest, they made it to Pickens, South Carolina. And the irony is, I'm trying to remember where they were going to go. It was in Western North Carolina. It was right in the heart of it. But the Airbnb accidentally got booked for Thursday night. They were going to go Thursday night, Friday night through the weekend, but the host accidentally had booked it for Thursday night, so they went up Wednesday in Pickens, and they were going to go Thursday or something. I don't remember, but fate intervened, and they never made it to where they were supposed to go. But they still got to Pickens in South Carolina, And my son made Nathan, who was the guy getting married, he made a movie for me off of his dash cam that was pretty remarkable. He called it Escape from Pickens. And it was really neat the way he would speed up when everything was fine, and then it would slow down, and there was trees down and flooding, and he said it reminded him of the Truman Show when Truman was trying to escape the island, and there was all these obstacles, fire, and whatever. And I was like, I told you. And I mean, look, these are the children of HurricaneTrack.com's Mark Sudduth, and they're asking me over and over and over, do you still think it's bad? I said, it's going to be epic. It's going to be historic. Don't go there. And they still went. What do you do? Like, that's hard. How do you reconcile that? And then so you look at the Western North Carolina and Asheville. Do you just tell all of Buncombe County, you got to go? You can't, because you had that precursor event that set everything up. We were just doomed to get our butts kicked on that one, unfortunately.
Well, I've
And
learned one thing that you've just got to have you got to make sure that mom understands the critical nature,
all
because
right,
once mom turns into mom in that
true,
situation, they won't be going to that Airbnb or going trying to ride their bike across the
right.
Furman campus on Friday morning. No, that's not going to happen anymore. She goes into overdrive, and that stuff just gets nixed. So you just have to make sure she understands the impact.
And it's one of those ones we'll look back at it, you know, it's etched in there, right, with Camille
Mm.
and Katrina, old Helene, and then we had Milton just a few weeks later. One thing about Helene, though, I will say, I'm looking forward to showing this at conferences next year, is the velocity of the storm surge that came up the Steinhatchee River.
Mm-hmm.
It was remarkable. And I still haven't really wrapped my brain around it. We were waiting for it, waiting for it. I was texting a couple of my colleagues at the Hurricane Center, when is that surge coming? And because the Big Bend is just weird how the water literally moves around up there. And it took the west wind coming back around to send the surge in the Steinhatchee. And it looked like what we were going to see in Western North Carolina the next day with that raging water. I would say it was even faster. The velocity that the Steinhatchee took, reversing course and coming back the other way, and all the different large pieces of buildings that were going by our camera, is just incredible. And we had seen it the year before. This is what's so ironic about it. We saw it from Idalia the year prior with our camera that was on the bridge up there. It was just accidental, and it caught this little gazebo and everything down there. Everything collapsed, and during Adalia, the water was moving pretty quickly. But for Helene, it literally looked like an out of control, raging flash flood or something, and it was storm surge. You think of storm surge as this gradual but pretty decent rise of water. This was like sweep you off your feet. It looked like a tsunami. It was incredible to be able to see that, and that is a storm surge that you can't see and survive necessarily without these remote cams. And it held. We got lucky. A lot of these we got lucky with, but we captured that. And um,
Talk about the people in that area. They've been through so
they
much,
have.
Mark. I was down there for Debbie.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Debbie. Forgot Debbie.
yeah, you know, because there were so many. Because Debbie kind of pales in
Right.
comparison in
Sure.
impacts, but I drove down to Steinhatchee that Sunday night before Debbie, and I felt for those people. They've been through so much.
Yeah, they have. And we talked to several of them when we went back to pick up the equipment, and they're just kind of shaking their head that one guy said, I think if it happens next year or maybe even the year after, we're going to have to leave. And our good friend in Cedar Key, the fire chief there, he was on the ropes, and they are some tough people. They're very resilient, they're very close knit, but there does become a point where enough is enough, and different anchors start to leave that are anchoring that community. Then you can start having problems. These societal impacts that last longer than the hurricane and the cleanup and the insurance checks. And our friend down there, Robert Robinson in Cedar Key, was saying that we're on the ropes here. This is, if we lose some key businesses, then it starts to trickle down from there. And uh, Helene and Milton, well, Milton didn't affect them as bad, but certainly Helene on top of Adalia and then Debbie this year, it's starting to put the cracks. But on the other side of that, this other friend of ours down there, um, who owns the Tiki Bar, uh, he has just been a champion of rallying people together, putting his own money in, helping people raise their homes and start over, pushing politicians to get off their butt and forget the paperwork, but also staying sensitive to environmental concerns. They had an event several weeks ago where they went out on airboats, and he had a big party at his tiki bar. Said, "Come on out, get your airboats. Let's go get all this debris that's out there, round it up." And he had different prizes for the most debris, free beer, free partying back at the tiki place. And why? Why would you do that? Because the hurricane brings in all these trees or whatever, because you got to open up those waters for the economy to get back going. And, oysters and clams or something comes from down there. And just it's hard, but at the same time, it motivates people to take some action that makes a difference. And I hope they make a movie about this guy one day. Maybe I can, if I win the Powerball, I'll finance that independent film. He's fantastic. He's one of the producers of that show Fear Factor with Joe Rogan back in the day. Anyway, Cedar Key would have really neat. Anybody? I can't. Span, you think you would have been to Cedar Key at some point?
Oh,
You think so? By the way, the working show title is "Free Beer at the Tiki Bar." So far,
Right, the low key.
that's the ultimate show title. No,
Right.
it is so odd.
you don't
I
get out
honestly
enough,
think
man.
I think the last time I was close to Cedar Key, I want to say was in 1979. How embarrassing is that? I drove from Montgomery to Tampa and was curious, and I drove down through some of those communities down through. But I need to get back. I really do, because
Yeah,
there's some
such a neat
marvelous
area.
people
road
there.
trip.
Marvelous people, and everybody
Yes.
says it's just a hidden gem
It is.
that's there.
And it's
Yeah.
a really special place. It was devastated by hurricanes in the late 19th century. They had
Right.
they had a flourishing cedar industry there, and they ruined it by by not using sustainable processes. They made most of the pencils in the world there out of that area, and then they made brushes and brooms for a long time. But now it's just an artist community and tourism.
It is.
But it's out there in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. It's
Right.
extremely vulnerable.
And you don't just stumble across it. One does not simply happen upon Cedar Key. You have to purposely go there off of 24, but it is remarkable. And you got Perry and Perry's the hurricane capital of North America right now, isn't it?
That little Hampton Inn,
Woo!
I tell you
Yes, man. We need to have like a one of those marker things that we can put there, that like an official something. Poor
what.
Perry.
Where were you for Helene? Where did you spend the night, Mark? Where were you that night?
Staying true to my insert curse word here that I'm ever going to do this again for Charlie. Remember, Helene was coming in as a 4. And I'm like, no, I'm not staying in Perry, because if that, you just never know with these hurricanes.
Oh,
People,
no.
oh, it'll unravel when it gets there. Well, that's what people thought was happening with Michael, and it intensified. And I wasn't going to go to Perry. So anyway, I went up to the interstate. Like, I wanted to see it unravel a little bit more before I made myself get into the middle of it. A 3 that's unraveling, I can confidently stay in that eye wall in a nice open area. It's calculated. Just because something is dangerous doesn't mean that I have to act in a dangerous way. And that holds true in so many things, in what a lot of people do in a lot of different, our first responders, our military. You know what I mean? Like, really, you do not have to act dangerous in a dangerous situation, and you can manage it. And I just didn't feel comfortable about going to Perry, because you just never know. and they got rocked pretty hard. But I was up on the interstate, and we got right in the eye. It started to collapse, so it was much more dirty. Um, and in fact, Interstate 10 was so empty that I was literally able to sit down with my colleague Marcel, just sit down on the interstate and just look around and just be in the eye, just sitting there. When can you ever do that? And not, and you talk about
Well, that's
acting
good. I'm surprised
dangerous.
there wasn't some 18-wheeler come barreling down the road that
But that's
was
the thing
ignoring
is
the warnings.
we saw those earlier, but uh, we were quite worried about them, in fact. But I tell you what, actually, the reason there was no traffic is the trees on either side of us, because we were in the eye, were blocking that interstate. And we were in a nice big four-wheel drive pickup. So once we left and trying to get back over to Lake City, we were able to go around a lot of those downed trees. But come to think of it, that's exactly why we were on our little oasis, because everybody was blocked, especially the 18-wheelers. But yeah, so that was Helene. And then we had Milton. Milton was remarkable. Jen has a role a little bit there for how our success went in Milton. Jen, why don't you take it away for a second? And this connectivity thing, it's not all me, is it? No, it's
No,
you
it's a
guys help out.
crowdsource.
It is.
Absolutely. Yeah, your Patreon is great, and I was watching you, and you just threw out there if you know anybody that we can connect so we can find a place for to put the cameras up. And so I called my best friend who lives in Southwest Florida, and I knew that she had a friend of hers that lived right along the coast, and so I was able to get Mark and her connected. And how many cameras did you put up at her place? And we watched that through the event. What was it? Two
Three.
outside,
Yeah,
three,
two
and then
outside. Yeah.
yeah,
And
and
then
then you had one in her garage as well.
yeah.
And you got some amazing footage. And she did have quite a bit of damage, but
Mm-hmm.
overall she was hanging in there because she had impacts from Ian. So they had just recovered from Ian, and then Milton came in, and so it's the great thing about Patreon and working with people who are passionate about the creators, and Mark, and supporting Mark's research and his creativity because he's doing his videos as well, and you are reaching out to folks and you don't know who knows who,
Right.
and have everybody paired together. So I was so grateful, and you got a chance to get to know the family a little bit, right?
Exactly. Went back and met with them, the family's daughter, and the guy who has connections himself up in the Northeast. And it's like it just starts to spread. It's like a fraternity or something. It's just amazing. And that happened too during Ida in 2021. One of our supporters on Patreon said they know somebody that owns the Frenier Landing restaurant, and one thing led to another, and bam, we had 3 cameras there. And that's some of the most remarkable work we've ever done was Ida, to see the Lake Pontchartrain get shoved over there as high as it did, and we would not have been able to do that without that connection. And in fact, that's all going to lead to 2025. I'm going to take some time in either late March or early April before conference season to go down to Louisiana. Louisiana is still tough because it's such big remote areas. We're going to take about 5 days and get boots on the ground and go meet people. Got a couple of ideas that we're cooking up, always trying to stay ahead of the curve and other people that are learning this technology. 20 years after I first started it, I will pat myself on the back. And look, I welcome it, by the way. It's a good thing. I like that's a big coast. I don't own the rights to this. Other people are putting cameras out, and I'm always trying to figure out how to keep ahead of the pack, so to speak. So we're going to do some stuff in Louisiana to try to solve some problems for some of those remote areas. And it's who you know. It really is. And with Milton, because we knew it was going to come at night, having those homes, we had a couple of them that we used. The irony is one of them up in, where was it? It was the Siesta Key. It was a flood insurance adjuster that got us in touch with his client that was still cleaning up after Helene, that we came in and set up for Milton. And that's weird because we drove into Siesta Key and it was like, wait a minute, of course we're just joking, right? But did we miss the hurricane, Milton? Like, are we a day late? Because there's all this debris everywhere. Well, no, that's from Helene. Anyway, that was weird. An insurance adjuster telling you to go to this guy's house for yet another hurricane. And boy, the sense of humor that some of these folks have, because what are you going to do? You can either try to strangle us, because, it's sort of the Jim Cantori effect, right? You see me come with a yellow box, that's bad. Or you just kind of embrace it and just, you know what I mean? And everybody had such good attitudes and truly appreciated it, that they could watch because their networks go out, their batteries go out, their cables get cut. Because everybody's got cameras. We all have Nest and Ring and whatever, but not all of them are backed up. And all of our stuff is self-sufficient and self-contained. And so the family in Nokomis and the guy at Siesta Key were able to watch and see that they avoided the 10 to 15-foot surge. And sometimes you're not so lucky and you do see that big surge hit and you're like, ugh. But anyway, Jen had a big role in that, and that was awesome.
Yeah, I was so grateful to help. Mark, talk about because you put one of those 360 cams in the Nokomis garage.
Right.
Talk about that because you told me about that story. That was interesting.
Yes. 360 video, let's just go back just real quick to 2020. I had a couple of these Max cams, and we played with them, put one out for Hurricane Zeta at the Silver Slipper in what is that, Hancock County over there near Waveland. And I just thought it was neat. Like, oh, this would be cool to see in a VR headset. Didn't see much utility with it. And it turns out there's actually a lot of interest, especially from the National Hurricane Center, Clemson University. They're working to develop more 360 video for awareness and education. And that's a whole other project we're working on. And then, of course, I did it during hail season and serendipitously figured out, oh, this could actually be used as a way to collect hail data. And so really said, all right, let's use these 360 cams during hurricane season and see what we can come up with. So we first did it outside of the Tiki Bar, the low-key hideaway in Cedar Key, but Helene was at night, and there's just not much you can do. I mean, you say, well, bring a bunch of lights. Well, you can, but it's harder than you think. Anyway, we did it. It worked technically. Camera went underwater. We have the best 360 video of storm surge from underneath it in the history of mankind, but who cares? You can't see anything. The sound is amazing. Trust me. When you hear 360 gurgling underwater, that's pretty cool. But otherwise, it's just, okay. But for Milton, we had that chance there. We worked with this family and we took the 360 cam, have a special box rigged up for the battery. There's a lot of technical stuff because the 360 cams don't just run for 30 hours. In fact, they run shorter because there's more processing going on. And so we had to solve that problem. We did. And strapped the box with this camera on top to the guy's jet ski. And, good place to put it. If the water does come up 10 feet or more, everything will float around in this guy's garage and the 360 cam will be on there and we'll see what happens. And we did put some lights in there that I had brought with me that turn on when it gets dark and set them up in the garage and it worked. The water came in about 1.5 feet. It's not, remarkable like my Michael video where you're just like, but it is really something to be able to sit there as if you're the camera and you see the water. Actually, the water came in from the street side, not the Gulf. It worked its way around the house and came in that way. So that was useful to understand. And you wouldn't have been able to see that with just a regular GoPro that you can't look down and see the water coming in. And it came in fast. I mean, it literally was coming in, not like Steenhatchee fast, but it was like somebody had spilled a bathtub over or something. Like it was coming in. And stuff starts floating around. The basketball goal tips over. You know what? I think I can show you. Let me screen share one more time. I think I got this queued up in another folder. I hope. Let's see. Milton Cams. Do I or do I not? If I don't, then it's on me. I don't know if I have them in here. No, it doesn't look like I do. Sorry. My fault. You have to come to the National Tropical Weather Conference, and I'll show you there.
All right, well, I'll show up for that. That'll be fun.
But it worked. It worked, and we have something that I think that'll be really helpful in the future, especially if we get these to hit during the daytime. And again, this project we're working on with Clemson and National Hurricane Center, Jamie Rome down there, and other folks on the storm surge unit. So instead of augmented reality, it's true virtual reality through these 360 cams to show these impacts. And I think that's what's going to be so exciting working with Fox, is to put these cameras in unique places and show people the weather again like you are not used to seeing it. That we can put that camera out there and then you can literally just move around and you don't have to have a VR headset to appreciate it. And so that family allowing us through the connection with Jen to test this and make sure it's going to work, we're glad, because it's a great family, that the water didn't come up 10 feet into their house. But we're also glad that we had the opportunity to see if this is even viable, because every time we're doing something like this, it takes time. And you want to make sure you're investing that time as wisely as possible. And it worked. We overcame some technical challenges, and now we're ready for all kinds of stuff. I mean, especially now that we can use the Insta360 has 8K video. I'm thinking if we can ever get one of these close enough to a small tornado where you could actually look around and see some of the wind. I don't know, there's a lot of ideas that come to mind when you're thinking about you're not limited by one particular view. And then the video again comes back to being data. Because you can extract stuff from it. And then eventually AI is going to help with that a lot. The more video we get, we're just at the beginning.
And we've kept you longer than I promised, Mark. But we never are good at sticking to limits on this show. So
the one thing listening to Mark, I think back, Bill Murray on the first hurricane I covered as a professional was Hurricane Frederick.
I was so thrilled they were sending you to the coast. That was just amazing. That just never had happened in Birmingham, Alabama.
Right, but I think about what Mark is doing now and what we did in 1979. They sent me down there and they said, you have to cover this where there is a working telephone. Now,
right. Well, that's where I started. We have to have a modem at the beginning. You had to plug in somewhere. Now it's Starlink.
And so we couldn't do it on I said, there is no way I'm going to get a working phone out of here at Gulf Shores or Orange Beach or Dauphin Island. So we wound up in Mobile, the city of Mobile, for the landfall of Frederick. It was still a rough ride. This was a pretty nasty hurricane, but we had my working phone line, so I could be live by phone on the 10 o'clock news the night of September 12th. And but goodness, how technology has changed. So Mark, we're so thankful for your work and what you do here. So let's take a quick break.
Yeah, sharing it with you. Thank you for letting me do that.
It's good to see you, Mark.
Yeah, good to see you, Mark.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Mark, don't leave yet. If you can stay for a few minutes, because you have to do a pick of the week. All right. So hang tight.
He may have to go, James. He's got to pick up his kids at school.
Okay. Well, Mark, you get out then. Mark, thank you.
Merry Christmas to you guys. Yeah, I got to go grab my daughter from school. It's like they're having a half day today, so there you go.
Everybody's got a half day, but Mark, thank you. Right. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thanks
Merry Christmas.
See you all. Thank you very much.
Let's take a pause, and we don't have Tony tonight, but we've got This Week in Tornado History from Jen. We'll come back with picks of the week and much more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
This week in tornado history, a very strong storm system produced 12 tornadoes across parts of north and central Texas on December 26th, 2015. The strongest that day was rated EF4. It began in Sunnyvale, Texas, in Dallas County. Several mobile homes were destroyed in this area. The tornado then traveled through the communities of Garland and Rowlett, causing tremendous damage and loss of life. There were 10 fatalities. 9 of these were in vehicles as the tornado crossed Interstate 30 at the President George Bush Turnpike. 1 fatality occurred in a collapsed home in Rowlett. 400 homes were destroyed in Dallas County. 22 businesses had some degree of damage, with 1 being completely destroyed. Tim Marshall performed a damage survey with the National Weather Service Dallas-Fort Worth. It was noted that Google Street View was an important tool in the survey. It was helpful in, quote, determining what buildings looked like before the tornado, especially when buildings had EF3 and crater damage. 2 sources of aerial imagery were also used. They were from the Dallas Morning News and the city of Garland. Per the survey, quote, the first EF4 damage occurred along Crest Point Lane, where all walls toppled on 2 single-story and 1 two-story home, leaving a pile of debris in their backyards. It wasn't far from this area that the tornado hurled the vehicles from Interstate 30. The twister reached its maximum width in Rowlett along Windjammer Way. Quoting from the survey, more than a dozen lakefront homes along the bluff sustained up to EF4 damage. Several 2-story homes collapsed and debris scattered to the northeast. 9 people in this area huddled in a shelter and there were no injuries, and another 12 were saved in a partially below ground shelter. Follow Tornado Talk on Facebook and Twitter and join our Discord server to get hooked on more tornado history.
Hey, it's almost Christmas time, which means we probably have some email in the inbox.
We do. And Bill's giggling. And I don't know why. What are you giggling about?
James A's background.
Oh, dear.
Oh, wow.
Might be my yard, too.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is live from Tulsa.
Oh, my goodness.
Don't light a match. Don't light a
Apparently
match.
It was the winning. Apparently, it was the winning float in the Trustful Christmas Parade. Was a takeoff of the same theme, James A. So you're famous.
Yeah, we're going to need to get you to speak, so hopefully people can see what we're laughing about here. So let me do the email real quick, and then you think of something to say. But first of all, I've got 2 emails. One, I have no idea who it's from, and one I do. So we'll do the anonymous one first. But this the title is Chat GPT, Humans Are Still Needed in Forecasting Weather. So that's good to know that even Chat GPT acknowledges that we're still needed. But this person asked the chatbot, is there hope for young people in school to find and retain viable employment in meteorology in the age of automation? And the response, yes, humans are still essential in weather forecasting, even with the advancements in technology and AI. And then they have a whole list here of different things of why we're still needed. So thank you, whoever sent that. We greatly appreciate it. Maybe AI sent it. I don't know. Then Jim Lewis wrote to us as well. And if you watched our show Monday night, we were talking about the year without a summer. And the volcanic eruption that we were talking about when it was the year without a summer was the eruption of Mount Tambora in 1815. It was a 7 on the volcanic explosivity index, making the eruption an order of magnitude larger than the eruptions of Pinatubo and Krakatoa, and perhaps the largest in thousands of years. For comparison, the Yellowstone supervolcano people like to make scary tweets about, most recently exploded with a VEI of 8 about 640,000 years ago. When you mentioned the year without a summer and couldn't remember which volcano it was, I said Tambora out loud and hope my neighbors didn't hear me. We wish we could have heard you, Jim, but we appreciate you writing now and letting us know. We appreciate it. And thank you, everybody. I just want to say again, if you are sending us an email anytime soon, put your name and your email address at the bottom so we can reply to you, or I can at least say who you are on the air when we do our email of the week as we move toward the last email of the week will be on the 30th, and then we start a brand new year, gearing up toward the 1000th show, Bill Murray, and that'll be exciting to be a part of. So, thanks everybody for watching the show, and Merry Christmas to you.
All right, so
it'll all come
let's
together,
go.
right, James Man? It's all going to come together.
Sure, it always comes together. We will make it happen. James Adelot, who's out there with cousin Eddie. James, give us a good pick, please.
I thought that was former Mississippi State football coach. No, Dan. Never mind.
What?
I always thought he kind of looked like Dan Mullen a little bit.
Wow. Dan, if you're listening, it's Bill Murray at BillMurray.com. Don't send the hate mail to us, please.
You know, I mean, it's a compliment.
He'd get himself a nice RV. Park it around. That is not my pick of
All
the
right.
week, however. My pick of the week is from the MRCC group, who has a cool visualization of tornadoes, and you can do some sorting on it. So I did sort the tornadoes in December in the database from 1950 to 2023 that have caused injuries or fatalities, and you can really pick out the geographic center of that is basically over the lower delta. And you can also see that big mid-Mississippi River Valley effect from the outbreak. When was that? 2 years ago in December, the Paducah and Mayfield area. That was so terrible. And you can actually pick that out. So
Awesome. That's a great pick. All these will be up on weatherbrains.com. And by the way, my pick, it's Barry Butler. Barry is an amazing photographer. Barry is in Chicago. And if you want to see some really good work, just check out Barry across the social platforms, especially at Christmas time. His work is just stunning. All right, Kim, by the Christmas tree, what is your pick of the week?
Yeah. So those who are close to the weather community may know this name. I know it's not necessarily one of those people who had a big public profile, but this past week we lost the director of the National Weather Center, who was the dean of the College of Atmospheric and Geographic Sciences here at OU. And it's just a pretty big loss, especially for us here in Norman, but for many in our community. He was one of those very wonderful humans who helps to, be the glue that keeps people together, is just an encourager. He was still our dean and the director of the college at 83 years old. So his loss was actually pretty unexpected and sudden. So I'm going to just pass along a little, homage to him that's been put out by the college. And I think what makes me so sad about the loss at this particular moment is I just feel like our field is so stressed out. You heard a little bit of that, AI question. Are humans even going to be part of this going forward? Personally, I'm seeing a lot of infighting and, people just like really working to protect their island in the field of meteorology right now. A whole lot of vitriol. And it is sad to lose somebody who was just generous and kind. And my hope is that we can all look at, what this wonderful human provided and try to reflect it a little bit in ourselves in the year to come.
Very good. Great points. And thank you, Kim. Jen, what's your pick of the week?
So I am still trying to get a hold of, I'm calling her the snowflake lady, but she is the great, great niece of Wilson Bentley, also known as Snowflake Bentley. And we met her when I was on my trip in Vermont at the Snowflake Bentley Museum. Such a fascinating story. But on January 15th, 1885, he became the first person to photograph a single snow crystal, and then went on to photograph well over 5,000 snow crystals and never finding two of the same. And there's just a whole museum there. And I picked up this print. And so this print, those are original negatives of his snowflakes that he took photos of, and then they reproduced them and put them into print. So I got this one that looks like a cross, and they just do different ones. And it's just a really neat story. I'm trying to get her on, and I'll continue to work on it for maybe, sometime early next year. But I attach the website so you all can look at it and go visit Jericho, Vermont, and the Snowflake Bentley Museum.
Excellent. Thank you, Jen. This is kind of a random thing. I just heard from a guy named Michael Harris. And for those that can see a screen share, that's Michael.
Yeah.
This was December 16th, 2000, 24 years ago. Michael, and again, for many of you who are listening, he's carrying what looks to be the lifeless body of a young child out of a trailer park, the Bear Creek Trailer Park in Tuscaloosa. A horrible F4 tornado just came through there. They killed 11 people. The little girl survived. Her name is Whitney Crowder, and now she's Whitney Daly. But for the first time, Michael has agreed to talk to me. He has shied away from publicity for all these years, and he says next year, for the 25th anniversary, in December of 2025, he wants to talk. And we're hoping that we can get Whitney and Michael all together. But I just thought that was cool. For all these years, he just didn't want any credit. He didn't want to talk about it, and I can understand that. And I like to respect people's privacy. But good to hear from Michael this morning. So on that note, Bill Murray, you give us a good pick of the week.
Yeah, James, there's nothing I can say after that. That was a terrible day. And I remember watching you, and when you saw that tornado on the Skycam, it was a revelatory moment in what we do, because I knew what was to the northeast of what you were seeing there. And that was a terrible, terrible Saturday. We knew going into it that it was going to be bad, but you never know how bad. And that was one of those days where I was telling people, don't go Christmas shopping this morning, because it was right in the middle of prime Christmas shopping season, and we had just a very bad outbreak that morning. And it's just a day I'll always remember. And we nearly lost our friend John Olshew, in the chaser that day. At the Hampton Inn there in Tuscaloosa. And so it was just a scary, scary day. And I could not reach my hotel. We had a hotel there at the exit that was one exit up. And I couldn't reach them until, right before the tornado, got there. And it was scary because, we had communicated to them at the tornado warning, that, hey, time to go on a tornado plan. And they did it perfectly. But then I didn't know where it went, James. I didn't know which exit it went to. And when they said it hit a motel, I thought I was scared to death it had hit ours. But it had hit, one exit down at the one that had the Hampton Inn. So thank goodness John and those. And who was it? Cyril was with him, James. Was that right?
Yes, Cyril Samante, yes.
And so thank goodness they were okay. Somebody let them in. The hotel, of course, the doors were locked, the side doors, and they put mattresses over the doors. And James and them, John and them frantically, were trying to get in. And somebody heard them and let them in. And the video they shot was very disturbing, as the tornado hit the building. So it was a bad day. So Merry Christmas to everyone, and Happy New Year. We'll be back on the 30th for Greg Carbon. Very excited about that. We'll talk about his meteorological memories, and then we'll be talking more about Hurricane Helene on the 6th. It's going to be an emotional show. Geologist Philip Prince and our friend from the National Weather Service in Greenville, Spartanburg, Tricia Palmer, will join us. And James, if you got to ding me with the foghorn, go ahead and ding me, because I just don't have a pick of the week today. So, but Merry Christmas, everyone.
We love the tones of that foghorn. So thanks, everybody. If you are new here, we're typically on the air Monday nights. I know this is a special Friday morning edition of Weather Brains, but typically Monday night at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. YouTube.com/WeatherBrains if you'd like to watch. Most of you listen. And if you want to get in touch with us, the email address, it is email@weatherbrains.com. So on behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thanks for listening. Have a great week. Merry Christmas and God bless.
Awesome. Thank you all for doing this today.
Thank you. Merry
Thank you all
Christmas.
for doing the Friday special.